Our honest review of D&D's new Planescape Box Set. Is it a bust, or is it actually good?
Which one is it?
Planescape is returning to Dungeons & Dragons. Well, technically it never really went away, but Wizards of the Coast has chosen to release a new Planescape Box Set as one of its final releases of the year. But with the disastrous Spelljammer Box Set still fresh in many people's mind, and the original Planescape being one of the most memorable and well-loved campaign settings in D&D history, people are already anticipating that Planescape will be another bust. Luckily, we got our hands on the Planescape Box Set courtesy of Wizards of the Coast, and we spent an evening digging around into it, and here are our thoughts. Now, before we get started, we will note that we did receive a review copy from Wizards of the Coast, but we have not been paid for this video, nor is there any expectation of positive or negative or any coverage from Wizards in exchange for that box set. So just getting that out of the way now. No, we are not paid shills. First, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. The Planescape box set has woefully few character options. There's a couple of new feat trees, 2 backgrounds, and a couple of new spells, and that's really about it. Now, we will note that we knew this back in July, but honestly, it's still pretty disappointing to hear. Now, of course, a lot of Planescape races from, the original 2E books, they've become a lot more standard now in 5e. The Aasimar, the Genasi, the Gith, and the Tieflings, hey, those are all standard races now. Hey, a bunch of those appeared in the player's handbook. But, it's still disappointing not to have a Barrier or a Rogue Modron option, especially given that Modron are such a huge part of the adventure in this box. But hey, we'll get to that later. Now, there is the lightest of mechanics related to the factions in here, but you need to take an appropriate background to utilize it, and it functionally amounts to 1 more skill proficiency, which, well, that feels horrifically underwhelming. Additionally, while this is billed as a Planescape box set, it's really mostly a Sigil and the Outlands box set. Now, both the very appropriately named Sigil and the Outlands book and the Turn of Fortune's Wheel adventure are both focused on Sigil and the Outlands. Now, while an exploration of the various gate towns in the Outlands are found in both books, and they provide a lot of flavor that can be reincorporated into the planes themselves, there's really not a lot for players who actually want to explore the great wheel of D&D cosmology, outside of some stat blocks and a few adventure hooks. Now, this leads us to the final weird bit in the box set. The weird union between D&D's new fascination with the multiverse and Planescape. Now, D&D has always had a multiverse, but that wasn't what Planescape was really about. It was about the cosmology of D&D and the friction caused by taking the then rigid alignment system of the game and taking it to its natural extremes. With alignment basically just flavor text now, the D&D's design team has tried to shift Planescape, and more specifically Sigil, into the nexus of the multiverse, and it kind of feels weird. Yes, Sigil has always been the city of doors, and yes, you could find a door that led to anywhere, any multiverse, I guess, but I always thought that was like the 5th most important thing about Sigil, and now that's the focus of the city, and like I said, it just feels weird. Now, on the plus side, the content in the Planescape box, well, it's actually a lot of fun to read. Mort's Planar Parade might be the best bestiary section that we've seen in years, probably since Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Now, mind you, we haven't gotten a ton of great bestiaries. Fizban's had a pretty good one. Big B's was okay. Ravenloft, to be blunt, was kind of disappointing. And that's really all I can think of. We had a few in Dragonlance, but that was more like flavorful than anything else. So yeah, this was actually a good bestiary, so good job there. And yeah, Spelljammer also had a bestiary, but we don't talk about that. There's actually a really deep roster of monsters in this book, and shocker, they all have something to do with Planescape. Also, time dragons, which are kind of a new thing. They're pretty cool. I like them. They're great. And Sigil and the Outlands, the book, that's much juicier than the Spelljammer equivalent. I know that some folks won't love that factions basically only get 3 pages to them, but really in general, Sigil and the Outlands, that's the most we've actually gotten in a campaign setting book in years. Also, Turn of Fortune's Wheel is actually a pretty neat adventure. We won't get into spoilers in case you're a player who wants to get all the surprises from that, but it really plays into the idea of the multiverse in a frankly hilarious way, and it encourages players to put their characters into very deadly situations for, like I said, a very hilarious reason. This is the first adventure where death has no consequence, and I mean that in the best possible way. I really wish that it was a little bit more fleshed out. It is only like 96 pages or something like that, but the box set basically gives you all the tools you need in the Sigil and the Outlands book to make it really feel like a full adventure. Again, Turn of Fortune's Wheel isn't exactly a true Planescape adventure, but it's a Sigil and the Outlands adventure, and it's a lot better than last year's Spelljammer adventure. All in all, the Planescape box set is much better than last year's Spelljammer's box set. It's not really a true Planescape box set though. It's almost entirely focused on Sigil and the Outlands, and it's got this shifted focus on multiverse rather than alignment. Now, you can tell that the folks who designed it clearly love Planescape, and I wonder if there's ultimately just a fundamental incompatibility between Planescape with its examination of alignment, whether you're talking about the factions or the planes, and 5e in general. Now, if you're a Planescape diehard and you absolutely loved all the stuff that came out, in the early 90s, you're probably not going to be satisfied with the box set, I'm sorry to say. However, if you're a more general D&D fan, you don't know a lot about Planescape, or you do know a bit about Planescape, but, aren't just, absolutely in love with the setting, and you aren't dying for more character options, really, this Planescape box set, it's a pretty solid product. Honestly, it's probably the best one that Wizards of the Coast has released this year. Anyways, that's our thoughts about Planescape. Let us know in the comment sections if you have any questions, and we'll try to answer them, because the pre-release comes out starting, today by the time this video gets posted, so we can answer some stuff, and also be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons.